All right, so today we are diving deep into the origin story of Bitcoin. And believe me, it's a wild tale, full of revolutionary tech, a mysterious creator, and it all kicks off not with some super complex code, but with a pretty simple meal. A meal that is now, well, absurdly expensive. So let's just start with a number. Take a look at this. Roughly $945 million. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's the approximate value today of 10,000 Bitcoin. It's it's just an almost unimaginable amount of money, right? So that huge number naturally brings up a pretty wild question. How in the world did that staggering amount of money end up paying for just two pizzas? Okay, let's unpack this. We got to go back to the very beginning. All right, section one, the most expensive pizza. This is all about that landmark transaction, the moment that gave digital money some real world value. Okay, so picture this. It's May 22nd, 2010. A programmer named Laszlo Hanyak makes this super casual post on a forum, and he even said it himself. It wasn't like Bitcoins had any value back then, so he offers up 10,000 of them to anyone who would just order and deliver two large pizzas to his house. For him, it was just a cool little experiment. And you know what? Someone actually took him up on it. Another user, Jeremy Sturdivant, accepted the offer, and just like that, the deal was done. And in that one simple exchange, the first ever commercial transaction using Bitcoin was complete. It was proof, actual proof, that this digital token could work as real money. But that now famous pizza purchase, it actually raises a much, much bigger question. I mean, for that transaction to even be possible, a huge fundamental problem with digital money had to be solved. So let's get into section two, a system without trust. We're going to look at the problem Bitcoin was actually designed to solve. So here's the absolute core of the problem, right? On the left, you've got traditional finance. Before Bitcoin, pretty much all online commerce relied on banks, right? It's a system built on trust. But that trust, it comes with baggage. You've got mediation costs, fraud prevention, and you have to hand over all your personal info. Now look at Bitcoin's vision on the right. The whole idea was to replace that trusted middleman with pure, verifiable math, cryptographic proof. So Bitcoin's mysterious creator wanted a system where any two people could deal directly with each other. No bank needed. But to pull that off, they had to solve this massive digital headache known as double spending. I mean, think about it. Without a central bank checking the books, what stops me from sending the same digital coin to you and then turning around and sending that exact same coin to someone else? That was the big hurdle. So, how did this anonymous creator, this Satoshi Nakamoto, actually propose to build this new kind of digital cash? Well, the solution is, honestly, it's remarkably elegant. Which brings us to section three, how digital cash works. Let's take a quick look under the hood. Now, I know this looks a little complex, but the core idea is just brilliant. Try to think of a Bitcoin not as a file on a computer, but more like a chain of ownership. When you want to send it, use your secret private key to digitally sign a message that basically says, hey, I'm transferring this to this new person's public address. And that creates a brand new verified link in the chain. That's what you're seeing happen here from left to right. Each transaction is literally locked to the one that came before it. Okay, great. So how do you stop people from cheating and solve that whole double spending problem? Well, all the recent transactions get broadcast to the entire network, and they're gathered together into a block. You can think of it like a new page in a public ledger. Then computers on the network, which we call miners, all compete to solve a really, really hard math puzzle that's tied to that specific block. This whole competition, that's what's called proof of work. And because it requires real-world electricity and computing power, it makes faking the record incredibly difficult and super expensive. And this slide just illustrates the final piece of the puzzle so perfectly. Once one of those miners solves the puzzle from the last slide, that new validated block gets cryptographically changed to the one right before it. And that's how we get what's called a blockchain. You can see that chain forming right there at the bottom. What you end up with is a public, permanent, and basically unchangeable record of every single transaction. I mean, to alter just one transaction in an old block, you'd have to resolve the puzzle for that block and every single block that came after it. It's practically impossible. And so the whole network just runs on this continuous six-step loop. It's pretty amazing. First, new transactions are broadcast out to everyone. Then they're collected into a new block. After that, the miners all get to work trying to solve that puzzle. When one finally finds the solution, the new block is sent out to the network. The other computers then verify that everything in it is legit, and finally, they accept it by starting to work on the next block in the chain. See? It's a totally self-regulating system with nobody in charge. So you have this elegant, self-sustaining system that was created by a complete ghost. Which, of course, brings us to maybe the most compelling mystery of all. Let's jump into Section 4, the hunt for Satoshi. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Okay, so what do we actually know for sure? Well, Satoshi Nakamoto is the name, the pseudonym, for the person or maybe even a group of people who wrote that original white paper back in 2008. They launched the network, worked with the first developers online, and then in mid-2010, they just handed over the keys to the project and poof, vanished, completely gone, leaving behind a world-changing technology and, get this, an estimated 1 million Bitcoin that has never, ever been touched. Yeah, and over the years, you can bet there have been tons of investigations. They've pointed to a few key people. You've got Hal Finney, a crypto pioneer who was actually the first person to ever receive a Bitcoin transaction. There's Doreen Nakamoto, a guy who just happened to share the same birth name, which caused a media frenzy. Nick Szabo, who created a very similar concept before Bitcoin. And then there's Craig Wright, who is very publicly claimed to be Satoshi, although let's just say his claims are heavily disputed by the experts. But to this day, not a single one has been confirmed. The mystery continues. So where does all of this leave us today? Let's take a look at the incredible legacy of this completely anonymous creation. Our final section, from idea to reality. Bitcoin's journey from a simple white paper to a global phenomenon. I mean, think about the timeline. It's incredibly fast. In just a few short years, Bitcoin went from this obscure academic paper in 2008 to a fully functioning network in 2009 with the mining of that very first Genesis block. And then finally, in 2010, to a currency with real-world pizza-proven value. From theory to reality, just like that. You know, that pizza transaction was the moment that proved the whole concept could actually work. And in a strange way, the creator's disappearance was maybe the most important part. It ensured the project would be truly decentralized, owned by no one, and because of that, open to everyone. Which really leaves us with a final, powerful question to think about. What does it say about an idea when it becomes so big, so revolutionary, that the person